Here's something I want you to sit with for a second. You got into writing because you love words. You love stories. You love the creative work. And somewhere along the way, you ended up managing a newsletter, running social media, keeping up with a website, negotiating with distributors, chasing invoices, updating metadata, answering emails, and trying to write the next book in whatever time is left over. And the thing is, you're not lazy, you're not unfocused, you're working constantly. But there's this nagging feeling, isn't there? Like the business is running you instead of the other way around. I've been there, and I think a lot of us have. So today, I want to talk about what it actually looks like to build a freedom-based author business. One where you are making intentional choices about your time and your energy. Not just saying yes to everything because it feels like you're supposed to. Welcome to the Right Podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Williams, best-selling romance author, book coach, and founder of Serenade Publishing. I've been an avid reader ever since I could hold a book, and I've spent a decade immersed in the world of writing, editing, and publishing fiction. I know firsthand what it takes to turn a love of storytelling into a sustainable, soul-aligned author career. Each week, I share real talk about writing fiction, marketing smarter, and staying inspired, along with up-to-date industry insights and the strategies that are working right now. You'll also hear from fellow authors, editors, and industry experts who are out there doing the work and making waves. Here, we put the woo in the work of writing, publishing, and growing your author business. Think of this as your creative business pep talk, packed with heart, hustle, and a little bit of magic. So get cozy and join me. Your writing journey starts now. I just finished Natalie Ellis's book, The Freedom-Based Business, and I could not wait to talk to you about it. You know me, I'm a business and personal development nerd, and this one genuinely got me fired up. And look, I'll be honest with you, I have chronic fatigue, which means my energy is finite, non-negotiable resource. I don't get to just grind through things. I have to be smart about how I work, what I work on, and what I let go of. So when I read a book that's essentially a framework for doing exactly that, I'm immediately applying it to my life and my business. And then apparently making a podcast episode about it too. Today, I want to walk you through how Natalie's ideas map onto our world as authors and what it actually looks like to build a writing career you don't have to escape from. So if you're not familiar with Natalie Ellis, she's the co-founder of Boss Babe, and the freedom-based business is her framework for building a business around your actual life instead of sacrificing your life for your business. She's not writing for authors specifically, but I kept reading her ideas and thinking, this maps perfectly into what I wish more writers understood about running their careers. The core premise is this. Most of us are building businesses by default, not by design. We add things, we say yes to things, we take on tasks because we feel like we should, or because someone told us we needed to, or because we saw another author doing it and figured we should too. And over time, the business becomes this thing we're just trying to keep up with. A freedom-based business flips that. It starts with the question, what do I actually want my life to look like? And then it works backwards from there. For authors, that question is huge because here's the thing. You chose this career for a reason. Maybe it was creative freedom. Maybe it was flexibility. Maybe it was the ability to work from anywhere or to build something that was genuinely yours. Somewhere between the dream and the day-to-day, a lot of those original reasons got buried under obligation. The author CEO framework I come back to again and again is built on a similar idea. that you are the CEO of your creative business, which means you don't just write books, you make decisions about your career. You allocate your resources, your time, your money, your creative energy strategically. A CEO doesn't just grind, a CEO leads. And the first act of leading yourself is deciding what your business is actually for. So here's the question I want you to genuinely ask yourself. If your author business was working perfectly, if it was giving you exactly what you need, what would a normal Tuesday look like? How many hours are you writing? What tasks are you doing? And what are you not doing? Write that down seriously, because the vision is your compass. Every decision you make about your business should move you closer to that picture, not further from it. Okay, now let's talk about the Pareto Principle. You've probably heard of the 80-20 rule, the idea that roughly 80% of your results come from 20% of your efforts. Economists use it. Productivity people use it constantly. And I want to apply it specifically to your author business because I think it changes everything when you actually sit with it. Think about your revenue for a second. If you have a backlist, I'd be willing to bet that a small handful of titles, maybe one or two, are generating the majority of your income. That's the 80-20 rule in action. 20% of your books are producing 80% of your results. Now think about your marketing. Of all the things you're doing to reach readers, the social platforms, the newsletter, the blog, the ARC outreach, the ads, the podcast guesting, which activities are actually bringing readers in? Honestly, probably 2 or 3 things, not 12. And think about your time. Of all the hours you put into your author business in a given week, the writing, the admin, the communications, the promotion, which hours are genuinely moving your career forward and which ones are just noise? Here's where Natalie's framework and the 80-20 rule come together in a really interesting way. She talks about getting ruthlessly clear on what she calls high-value activities, the things that are actually driving results, versus the tasks that just make us feel busy and productive without actually moving the needle. For authors, high-value activities usually look like writing new books, deepening reader relationships, and making smarter publishing decisions. That's the 20% that drives the 80%. Low-value activities are the endless tweaking of your website header, the hour you spent redesigning your newsletter template, the 3 platforms you're posting to because you read somewhere that you should be everywhere. Those things aren't nothing, but they are costing you time that could go into the work that actually matters. I'm not saying ditch everything and only write. That's not how a real author business works. But I am saying get honest about where you're spending your time and whether those hours are in your 20% or your 80%. Because here's the thing that nobody tells you. You can be incredibly busy and still be working on the wrong things. Busyness is not the same as progress. And until you apply something like the 80-20 lens to your own business, it's really easy to stay on the hamster wheel and call it productivity. For me personally, with limited energy, this isn't optional. I cannot afford to spend my best hours on things that aren't in my 20%. And honestly, once you start thinking that way, you realize most people can't afford to either. They just haven't done the math yet. So once you've identified your 20%, the work that actually matters, the next question is, what do you do with everything else? Natalie Ellis is very direct about this. You either delegate it or you delete it. And I love that framing because it removes all the guilt. We hold on to tasks because we feel like we have to do them, or because we've always done them, or because we're worried about what happens if we stop. But if a task isn't in your 20%, if it's not bringing you closer to your vision, and if it's stealing time from the work that actually matters, it needs to go somewhere that isn't you. For authors, delegation might look like hiring a VA to manage your inbox, working with a PA for ARC distribution, outsourcing your newsletter formatting, handing off your book funnel setup to someone who can do it in 20 minutes instead of the 2 hours it takes you. It doesn't have to be expensive or complicated. It just has to free you up for the writing. And deleting, that's even more powerful. Deleting means looking at something on your to-do list and saying, actually, this doesn't need to happen at all. That third social media platform you feel vaguely guilty about, delete it. The blog you've been half-heartedly updating for 4 years, delete it. The marketing strategy you read about that doesn't fit your genre, your reader, or your personality, delete it. Here's the part that is most personal for me, and I suspect it might be for you too. Natalie talks a lot about communication, about the way we hold expectations that we never actually voice. And this one hit me right in the chest. How many times have you worked with a cover designer, an editor, a PA, a collaborator, and you had a very clear picture in your head of what you wanted, but you never fully articulated it? And then you were frustrated when the result wasn't what you imagined. That's not a them problem, that's a communication problem. And the honest truth is, most of us are better at expecting people to read our minds than we are at actually telling them what we need. As the CEO of your author business, your job is to communicate clearly, specifically, and without assuming the other person already knows. That means writing a proper brief for your cover designer. That means telling your editor what kind of feedback you need, not just hoping they'll figure it out. That means being honest with your agent about where you want to take your career instead of waiting for them to bring it up. Clear communication is not demanding, it's not difficult. It's actually the kindest thing you can do for your team, for your collaborators, and for yourself. Because when you stop expecting people to read your mind, you stop being disappointed and you start getting results. This is what it looks like to be the author CEO. Not just the person writing the books, but the person actively leading the business around those books. With clarity, intention, and a very honest calendar. If this episode landed for you, if you found yourself nodding along or mentally listing the tasks you need to audit, I want to invite you to go deeper. Head over to serenadepublishing.com, where I have resources on the Author CEO framework and building an author business that actually works for you. And if you're not already on my list, get on it, because that's where I share the stuff that doesn't make it onto the podcast. And honestly, the best thing you can do after this episode is put 15 minutes into your calendar this week to answer one question. What does my author business exist to give me? Just that question. Sit with it, write it down. That's your starting point. Thank you for spending this time with me today. I genuinely love getting to talk through this stuff with you. If this was useful, share it with a writer friend who needs to hear it. And I'll see you again next week on the Write Podcast. Thanks so much for listening to the Write Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, it would mean the world if you'd leave a review and share the show with your writer friends. It helps more creatives find their way to us. And don't forget to follow Serenade Publishing on Instagram and TikTok for more writing tips, publishing advice, and exciting events to keep you inspired. Keep writing, keep dreaming, and know that I'm here to support you every word of the way.